There are so many reasons to eat organic, including avoiding chemicals and GMOs, higher levels of nutrients, vitamins, and minerals, and in many cases, even better flavor. But if you're living paycheck to paycheck, eating organic can be a real challenge. In this video, I'll be sharing 5 tips for eating organic on a budget. We've always lived on a tight budget, but incorporating healthy organic foods into our diet is something we had to make work. So we've learned how to eat organic on a budget. It can be hard at times, but we've figured out lots of tricks to help. We also have food allergies and cannot have wheat in the house, an additional challenge when it comes to eating on a budget. Growing more of your own food is a big help, but the average person just isn't able to grow 100% of their own food in modern times. Grow as much as you're able to cut back on your grocery spending. These tips should help you to get more bang for your grocery bucks. Tip number 1 is to track your grocery spending. If you don't already know how much you're spending on groceries each month, it's time to keep track for a couple months to figure out the actual numbers. You can easily keep track by putting all of your grocery receipts for the month in one place. Once you know how much you're spending overall, it's time to get down to the nitty-gritty. Take a little time to write down some of the meals you most often cook and estimate how much the ingredients cost. I do this every year or two, and the results can be eye-opening. Here's an example of a meal that I've priced out in the past. I wrote this out in the wintertime during a year when we hadn't preserved much food for winter, so it was mostly coming from the grocery store. Thankfully, we're able to grow more of our own now that we have more kids, or those meal prices would be even higher. If you grow some of your own food, you can list those items as free. This is for meatloaf, mashed potatoes, and a fresh salad. Ground beef was $6, onions and spices $1, potatoes $1, lettuce $1, and condiments 50 cents, for a total of $9.50 per meal. If you write out some of the meals that you most commonly eat, you can compare and get a good idea of where your money is going and which meals just fit into your budget better. Once again, if you're able to grow some of your own food, factor that in as you calculate meal prices. Our family eats our homegrown potatoes about 8 months out of the year. We typically have frozen, canned, and dehydrated fruits and veggies year-round. We grow most of our own vegetables and spices, and a large percentage of our meat. So depending on the time of year, there are often meals that we can make completely for free. Tip number 2 is to shop by what's on sale. Take advantage of local sales. If you're on a tight budget, go into the grocery store with a list, but be flexible. When you head to the produce section, take the time to compare prices. Organic bananas are always cheap, so that's the first thing that I'll buy. But when I write out my grocery list, I write fruit rather than a specific list of what I want, leaving the type of fruit up to what's the best deal that week. Learn to eyeball a package of meat and calculate how many meals it will last. Don't be afraid to try new brands or switch it up when there's a good sale. My whole family loves chips, but we buy different kinds or brands every month, depending on what's the best deal. One grocery shopping tip is if you tend to overspend on groceries, it can be helpful to add approximate prices to your grocery shopping list to help you stay on track. I do this every time I go to the store now. It's a huge help to me so I don't throw extra things in the cart and go way over my budget. Tip number 3 is to buy in bulk. You can often find organic foods for a fraction of the price by buying them in bulk. Pay attention to prices. Take the time to shop around a little. When I mention buying in bulk, you might think of the bulk section of your local grocery store, but there are many more places you can find bulk deals. Sometimes local farms or vendors at farmers markets will offer cases of produce that can be frozen or canned for winter. Just ask. If you eat a lot of meat, consider purchasing a half or whole animal directly from the farmer. You can find meat for sale on your local Craigslist. How does it work? A farmer might charge a set price for the animal or set a price per pound. Most small farmers are happy to deliver your animal to a local butcher who will cut the meat to your preferences and call you when the meat is packaged and ready for the freezer. You'll pay the farmer for the meat and will get a separate bill from the butcher. If you're able to swing the cost of a whole steer or hog, this can really save a lot of money compared to buying meat from the grocery store. We sometimes buy a whole lamb this way when we don't raise our own, because a smaller animal is more affordable for us than buying a 1,500-pound steer. You can also go in with a friend or family member to buy meat from a farm. That way you both get your meat at the cheaper bulk price, but don't have to fork out thousands of dollars for an entire steer. We shop a lot with natural foods co-ops. Our favorite co-op for non-GMO, organic, and allergen-free foods is Azure Standard. Azure delivers monthly to most of the U.S. with wonderful customer service. On certain foods, I often save 50% or more from the price that I would pay at my local grocery store. Some of our favorites from Azure include bulk organic and gluten-free flours, organic coconut oil, cocoa powder, popcorn, dried beans, natural sweeteners. Azure also offers fresh and frozen produce, supplements, spices, organic animal feed, and garden starts and supplies. Most of the food we don't grow ourselves comes from Azure. We've used Azure for many years, and I very highly recommend the company. I'll put a link to find out more about Azure down in the description box. Tip number 4 is to grow your own food. Most of us have at least a little space where we could grow food, even if that means a container garden on a patio or a grow light in a closet. Growing your own food doesn't have to be limited to vegetables either. Think about what food items cost the most on your grocery budget. Some ideas are to plant fruit trees. Most types of fruit are now available as dwarf trees that can fit in a large pot on a patio. Berries, grapes, melons and watermelon, nuts, potatoes, spices and herbs, onions and garlic, grains and seeds, the ingredients for salsa, ketchup, and other condiments, pickles, natural sweeteners such as stevia, sorghum, and agave, popcorn, salad greens or microgreens, which can even be grown indoors in an apartment, mushrooms, which is another indoor option for apartment dwellers, honey and beeswax, eggs and chicken, pork, beef, lamb, milk, butter, and cheese. You can find tips on growing food indoors in our article on our website, and I'll place a link to that in the description box as well. Tip number 5 is to take advantage of free food. Especially if you live in a rural area, you can probably find free sources of food nearby if you're willing to do the work of harvesting. Opportunities we sometimes take advantage of in my area include wild foods that grow on public land, such as wild blueberries, wild strawberries, elderberries, thimbleberries, rose hips, and asparagus. Every year, by watching local Facebook pages and Craigslist ads, I find free fruit ready for the picking. Usually someone has a fruit tree or several in their backyard, and they just don't have time to pick it all, so they let others pick for free. Another resource we take advantage of is gleaning on nearby small farms. At the end of the season, farmers are sometimes left with produce that's not big enough to sell, or just have extra that they don't want to go to waste. One local farm here offers a community potato dig every fall. Anyone who wants to can come and help fill bins of potatoes for the food bank, and all are welcome to take home boxes of potatoes for their own use. There are so many ways you can save money on organic food. Eating healthier does not have to break the bank. I really hope that this video is giving you some helpful ideas for eating organic on a budget.